Now let's talk about role. For every status you occupy, there is behavior that's expected of you in that particular status. That's what a role is. So a status is your position, but role refers to the behavior that's expected of you in a particular status. So it is the behavior you perform in a status. So let's say your status is that of mother. Let's say you're the mother of a child or children. What are the responsibilities or the behavior we expect of mothers? Well, we expect a mother to love and nurture her child, to provide, to protect, to teach. And there comes a time when a responsible mother must do what? Discipline. Now, this is just a single status, and I've described 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this list is not exhaustive. I'm a mother, I know. I've described 5 different roles pertaining to a single status. That is what a role set is. So a role set is when there are a number of roles attached to a single status. So you see here, mother has the responsibility of loving and nurturing her children, providing for them, protecting them, teaching them, and disciplining them. And that's with just one status. Now again, we occupy more than one status at a time. So let's give mom another status. Let's make her let me move the camera this way. Let's make her a working mom. So she is also an employee. Now, as a worker or an employee, she has to do her job. She may have to attend meetings. An important part of being a good employee is to be on time. So she needs to be on time for her job. Maybe she needs to work overtime. And she may have to travel, depending on what her position is. So, as a worker, as an employee, she has to do her job, attend meetings, be on time, work overtime, or travel. There are times when there are responsibilities she has as a mother that conflict with the responsibilities she has as an employee. And when that happens, what she experiences is something called role conflict. And role conflict refers to incompatibility among roles relating to more than one status. In other words, there is something that is at conflict in one status with the other status. So there's conflict between the two statuses. Let me give you an example of that, especially if she's a single mom. Let's say her child's school starts at 9 o'clock, but she has to be at work at 8:30. She has to be at work a half hour earlier than her child's school starts. So if her child is, let's say, 6 or 7 years old, is she going to leave that child alone to walk to school by him or herself? Or is she going to be a protective mom and a loving mom and make sure her child gets to school safely? So she's going to have to find a way to resolve that role conflict. And that's what compartmentalizing means. It is when we perform a particular task at a particular time. So maybe she negotiates a later time to start work so she can get her child to school on time and still get to work on time. Or maybe she pays for latchkey so she can get the child to school earlier, and that way she can get to work. But she makes sure her child is able to get to school safely and she can get to work on time, so to speak. All right, so that's role conflict. Now let's talk about role strain. Now, role strain refers to when there is incompatibility among roles relating to a single status. So this is role strain. Incompatibility among roles relating to a single status. Now, if we look at the roles of mother, loving, nurturing, providing, protecting, teaching, disciplining, which which of those roles might create strain? Now, strain refers to emotional discomfort. Something that makes us feel uncomfortable emotionally. Discipline. Absolutely. If you said discipline, you would be right. When I was younger and I got in trouble, and back then you got spankings and nobody called it child abuse. But if I did something that was naughty and my father spanked me, he would say, "This hurts me more than it hurt you." And I'm like, what? Well, if it hurts you, how about you put the belt down and neither one of us will hurt, right? But no. He would say, "This hurts me more than it hurts you." And I didn't understand that until I became a parent. And while I didn't physically discipline my daughter, I still was firm with her and I found other ways to discipline her. But when I did that, she didn't feel like I loved her. She felt that I was angry or upset with her. So it was disruptive to our peaceful, loving connection and bond. So disciplining is something that causes emotional discomfort for a parent, but it's something that's necessary. Now, the other example that I provide for you is when a supervisor is trying to be both boss and friend to their employees. You got to pick one or the other. There's a saying, it's lonely at the top. Why? Because when you're the boss and the buck stops with you, you can't afford to be too buddy, friend with the people you supervise because they may not always respect your authority. So that's role strain. Now, I cover compartmentalizing, what we have to do to resolve role conflict. Now let's talk about role exit. Sometimes it becomes necessary for us to leave a role. Why? Because our status changes. So let me give you an example of that. I have this board on a little stand here that isn't very solid. So I have to be very careful how I erase this. With this new teaching at home method. Okay, this tripod is kind of flimsy. All right, so let's use the status of husband. Okay. Now, what are the roles of a husband? To love his wife, and part of that involves sexual intimacy. To perhaps provide. He may feel protective of her. And he's her companion. They hang out, travel, that kind of thing. Alrighty. Now, that's what he does when he is a husband. But if he becomes an ex-husband, then all of those roles go away. That's an example of role exit. So he's going to have to learn some new skills like dating. And then he can move all of this into the category of boyfriend. Because now that he's dating, he has a girlfriend. And now he can do all these wonderful things with her. So that's an example of role exit. When it becomes necessary for us to exit a role, we leave a status, we leave those roles behind.